Hello guys, how y'all doing today? This is Coach D. Darrell Spears, or should I say Black YouTube Therapist. I am in my practice right now, just taking a break. I'm getting ready to have a session in about an hour. So I thought during my break I'd have an opportunity to kind of talk to you all just a little bit about what I'm briefly seeing as far as trends in mental health and how those trends relate to the Black community or just my particular clients as a whole. Now, over the last 2 to 3 years, particularly after COVID, I think the biggest in my position and from what I've seen is that one of the biggest changes is the fact that more people are feeling comfortable and are more in line and are requesting virtual therapy, telehealth, or virtual related therapy, or whatever terms that they like to utilize. Um, the increase in the demand for virtual therapy or virtual or therapy that's done online, virtual therapy that's done via some type of um, platform, digital platform, has increased exponentially over the last 3 years. And that's a fact. Also, in that, there is an increase of people who may look you up and that may request your services from other states. There's also situations where people who um, are not interested in seeing a therapist face to face, they are more likely to use this service, or particularly there has been a decline in no shows that involves the fact that if a person had to miss because of transportation and other means, they're more likely to utilize virtual therapy instead of having a no show, which is actually a positive thing. Prior to COVID, I probably engaged in virtual therapy maybe once or twice a month, some months not at all. Once, um, excuse me, once COVID came about, it became very regular every day. I do virtual therapy almost every day. And I'm going to be honest, I don't have an issue with facilitating therapy virtually. I prefer face to face. And the bottom line is most clients prefer face to face. Even the ones who are hindered due to transportation and other means, they would prefer face to face. It's just that there are things that have occurred that are preventing them from that modality. Now, that's in my position. Again, that is the biggest change or trend is that more people are feeling more comfortable with engaging in virtual therapy for a variety of reasons. It could be economics due to transportation. It could be because of work schedule, family schedule, distance. And so I provide therapy for people all over the state of Texas, particularly in Dallas. I provide therapy for people who are in Austin. I provided therapy. I have clients in California. I've had clients in Chicago. I've had clients in Florida, Alabama. Um, I've had clients all over the place in my practice. Now, most of those clients were probably clients of mine before they moved or they decided to visit family or whatever they may decide to do, and they want to continue on due to being comfortable with the therapy that I'm providing. They're still comfortable with having the same services. The only issues that based on where they're at, the insurance related issues that could arise, as far as you being in network with someone who is out of state, and that could pose some questions, some problems. And for many, they're willing to pay cash if all else fails, if they're unable to bill their insurance. So there's always ways around it. But I do think virtual therapy, the the lacks and laws, because at one time virtual therapy you had to there were stricter rules on virtual therapy. Now those rules have been relaxed and it has become a primary, or I would say a major form of delivery of services modality. That modality is now, which was once more like a, it was more of an afterthought, to be honest with you. Virtual therapy was seen as the last resort, and it had a lot of insurances wouldn't pay for it, or if they did pay for it, it had to be done under certain guidelines, or it had to be approved, pre-approved before you delivered those services. Now that's not the case, which is actually a good thing. But for the most part, most of my clients from my facility or my private practice, they prefer face to face. But if not, they're willing to engage in virtual, which is fine. That to me is the number one. The number two biggest trend is that Medicare has allowed licensed professionals like myself and licensed marriage and family therapists to bill for Medicare services, which we were unable to do so independently since counseling was a legitimate field. That is going to change in 2024. From a financial standpoint, that will change the competition for clients, and it also will change uh, as far as the convenience, the services being more convenient for clients because there's a whole group of professionals with different credentials who are now able to provide services for Medicare clients, and they're not just limited to psychiatrists, psychologists, and social workers. So now you have LMFTs and LPCs who are able to deliver those services, and uh, that in itself will allow more people to have more choices as it involves who they choose to deliver those therapy services. I mean, receive those therapy services from. That's a great thing. The next thing that I would like to talk about is as far as trends. Um, I see a rise in crisis related services. I see a rise in suicide attempts, not necessarily the rate itself as far as people committing suicide, but I think that in the future, because of our society's inability to manage stress as a country, our our chase for money, for fame, our chase for validation, our chase for admiration of others above our own needs, overexerting oneself, inability to have balance in one's life due to how you're structuring, there will be an increase of crisis related services, particularly those who are making suicide attempts either verbally or superficially. However, when okay, I'm back. Um, Shit, that wasn't much better than. Uh, Let's see. Okay. All right. So those are the things that I'm seeing, that I am observing, um, or things that I'm reading, particularly in mental health articles, magazines, research. I do see an increase in people who are developing and experiencing anxiety and depression, but more or less their inability to cope. And that's the biggest issue, their inability to cope with those mental health symptoms. And the fact that, particularly for the younger generations, those that are younger client between 18 and maybe 25, 27, a lot I see a increase in the hesitation of younger clients to seek mental health services, and they're using online platforms, and they're educating themselves with information that is not credible from people who are not mental health professionals. That's why there is an increase in people who utilize psychological terms and diagnoses. Merely the fact of reading these things and seeing people um, talking about and claim that they're educating the public on mental health um, terminology, particularly on YouTube and TikTok. There's a large percentage of people who believe that they can diagnose themselves and diagnose others. I was reading an article the other day with the Texas Counseling Association, which talks about the increase in young people. Um, we do appreciate people seeking psychoeducation, but the fear is that they're putting out information and causing more miseducation about things that they're not trained in, and they're thinking that they can predict and diagnose and give a prognosis of, if you have a certain illness, this is what you should be going to experience, and this is what you're going to deal with. And that in itself is problematic. Um, as a content creator, I see a lot of that, of misusage of psychological terms, diagnoses, or the mere fact of people reading things and not understanding how those symptoms or those mental or those features present itself long term in real life. And the practical experience of saying someone's a narcissist, there's a difference between saying someone's a narcissist and treating someone who's really diagnosed, truly, legitimately diagnosed with narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder. The same thing whether or not they have like antisocial personality disorder, or if they had obsessive compulsive personality disorder and others. It's a difference between reading it and thinking you can label, as opposed to treating someone who has that illness in real life. And there's a huge difference. And unfortunately, um, there I see an increase in that. And I've had clients who came into therapy thinking that they asking the question, can you tell me whether or not I'm schizophrenic? Can you tell me whether or not I am bipolar with psychotic features? Can you tell me whether or not I'm schizoaffective? And I've even had a guy who thought he was a sex addict, and he was not a sex addict. He had some issues, um, but as far as giving him a label in the syndromes of sexual dysfunction, he didn't necessarily fit, but he had features. That's a difference. So I do see that trend. I also am seeing a trend, particularly uh, because there's a kind of particularly when they upgrade or update the DSM. um, there's this whole issue of illnesses that are derived from gaming and other technology related devices that produce certain types of mental health symptoms or dysfunctionality. I see that I am predicting that in the future, we will definitely observe people who are experiencing some level of mental health discomfort due to their participation in video games, online gaming, social media, and etc. I see an increase in that in the upcoming years. I'm also slowly are seeing the advent of AI related technology, and I read an article about a AI related person helping someone with anxiety and providing some, I'm not going to say therapy, but they provided strategies that could assist a client, and the client reported that they improved from the session. That's very dangerous. Not that I have anything against AI, but um, I'm not a because I'm not necessarily, that's not my lane in technology. But if we're a ways from technology duplicating human interaction. We're not there yet. I don't think there will always be a a some level of separation in which, or some level of error that a artificial intelligence cannot replicate the human spirit, human interpretation. I could see an AI form of device because people are using therapists to text them, and they're using all types of social media for people to want to have a interaction with their therapist, and they want to be connected to their therapist whenever they have a situation or event. To me, that runs a risk of dependence and codependence. I feel that if I am providing effective therapy for you, there is no need for you to want to have that amount of access with me to me daily without you learning how to resolve your own issues based on the therapy that I am facilitating and teaching you how to think for yourself. Um, because there are apps in which you can text message and email someone and have therapy that manner. I don't believe in it. I do not provide that service because I don't want my clients to have that type of access to me, and they should be spending time implementing what's been taught in therapy instead of being dependent on me to in some way review and um, give a perspective on whatever they're experiencing at that time. The client has to have the ability to think for themselves, and I'm wanting the client to improve by learning to think and do things for themselves based on what we're processing in therapy. That's a danger to that. I see that as being some of the issues that are going to arise and continue to be more intensified in the next 3 to 6 to 9 years, next decade. Do I think that they're going to be AI therapists running around and they're going to run us out of business? No, I don't. I think we're generations away from where people would rather see a an artificial intelligence as in the form of a robot to talk about their issues and problems and to manage their mental health issues. But do I think that could be readily available to those who want that? Possibly. There will be flaws that will be involved in that. Okay. But I will read more on that because I'm seeing a lot on social media in regards to the influx of more AI related devices and robots and organisms that will replace human beings. Then they're going to run a risk of you're going to be putting human beings out of work. So who's going to be able to afford to even see the artificial intelligent organism? So that has political, economic, social implications right now that's difficult to comprehend as far as how it will evolve and become more sophisticated over time. But it does make for great discussion, and I will read more into that. But I have read, um, I've read articles on that in the American Counseling Association and also Texas Counseling Association. I belong to several counseling organizations, and I have several um, organizations and magazines that I'm a part of that I read in regards to psychology and counseling related issues over time. And also, just working in the field itself at the level that I am, I have a network of people that talk about a variety of issues as it involves the financial aspects, the business aspects of mental health, the insurances, governmental rules, politics, the implementation of certain therapies, um, things of that, and facility related issues, credentialing, and on and on. So those are some of the trends that I am thinking about just kind of doing more content on. Like I said, some of these things, particularly with the AI, robots, and all that. So we're generations away from that. Although there will be a slow implementation of these types of um, services as time moves on. It's almost kind of scary that we're moving in this direction, but that's the country that we live in, and that's the environment that we have produced. And there will be a market for people who want that. So with that being said, guys, I got to get out of here. This is Coach D. Durrell, aka the Black YouTube Therapist. Peace.